The illegal trade in wildlife is a multi-billion-dollar industry, one of the largest criminal industries in the world. The flagship species driving public awareness towards this major threat to biodiversity at the moment is the rhinoceros. Across Africa, rhino populations have been decimated for decades. Notably, the demise in black rhino numbers across the continent by more than 96% in just 30 years. This is one of the most rapid declines of any large mammal. The stronghold of rhinos has now been reduced primarily to South Africa. A cascading level of destruction now sweeps remaining populations across southern Africa. This has sparked a knee-jerk public outcry that has put the situation onto a global stage in a seemingly bigger way than ever before. But is it too late? Has the last rhino to die already been born? South Africa alone lost 448 rhino during 2011 in target attacks for their precious and increasingly valuable horn. This year is shaping up to be much more devastating, with an estimated 600 to be murdered by the end of the year. Half of these deaths will be in the continent's premier park, Kruger, which hosts the world's largest population of rhino. These numbers may seem dramatic, but historical losses are far more significant. Since 1977, CITES, or the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species, has attempted to stop the global trade in rhino horn by maintaining an international trade ban. The annual cost of maintaining this status is now increasing dramatically. This ban has pushed the trade underground and onto the black market. Many believe this is now aggravating the situation. Despite toughening sentences, the scarcity and growing price of rhino horn is increasing demand. This is making a more viable option for poachers and middlemen involved with the trade. The horn, holding seemingly mystical healing powers within various traditional Asian medical practices, now sells for vast amounts to the end buyer on the streets in Vietnam. Vietnam is the current hotspot destination in the Far East for rhino horn trade, fueled by cultural heritage, economic growth, social status, and desperation for disease cure. I'm now heading to Vietnam to investigate the history of traditional Vietnamese medicine, the cultural beliefs that can easily go misunderstood by Western society, and the future of rhino horn use in the Far East. One thing's apparent: the fate of the rhino is at stake. The question remains, though, is the solution to this raging war right under our nose? Can beliefs dating back millennia simply be changed and the rhino horn no longer be desired? This is one of the primary suggestions being put forward at the moment. What if the demand for rhino horn could be met and a good majority of the revenue put back into conservation? For this to happen, CITES representatives would need to make a landmark decision at the 2013 summit and lift a 35-year ban. This would require a majority 2/3 of the 160 votes, with a blocking vote of 54. 27 of these votes will come from the EU, largely responsible for hunting the rhino to the brink of extinction, and whose efforts to conserve their own threatened species have largely failed. Other key nations such as Australia will also weigh in. Australia has the worst record for extinction of its own mammals over the last 200 years than anywhere else in the world. 27 of their species have become extinct. This is compared with 26 different mammal species in total across Africa's 54 countries in the same period. We argue about the barbaric use of rhino horn by Asians for what we perceive as a myth, but we all need to be reminded of some simple facts. We take milk from cows, wool from sheep, eggs from birds, and honey from bees. There are not too many other creatures that us humans need mainstream products from that we don't have to kill for. The rhino, with its precious horn, although not mainstream, could be one of these creatures. A rhino will live to be almost 40 years old. Once mature at 4, the horn can be taken off every 3 years and will continue to grow back, much like the human hair that we all spend so much time and money on. Whilst the thought of eternally free-ranging rhinos are romantic, the logic of me questions that the survival ideology alone is enough for the human race to sustain something for the long run. For a species that has hardly evolved for millions of years, but which is suddenly at the crossroads, my thoughts in the overall goodness of the human race are somewhat challenged. Without a value on an animal, is there enough good to keep it alive? My name is Damien Mander, and I'm the CEO of the International Anti-Poaching Foundation. I personally don't know if the legalisation of the rhino horn trade is the definite answer to the future of the rhino, and no one can guarantee this. No one would generally want this animal to be wiped off the planet. What we do need is coordination in the way forward with this issue and support for the rangers on the ground whilst perspectives are argued at policy level. If we had a magic wand and could inject 5% of South Africa's annual defence budget, or 1.92 billion rand, then perhaps we'd not need to be looking at alternatives. Unfortunately, Conservation is an afterthought for many people globally when weighed against the likes of defence or healthcare. This whole rhino situation is a controversial subject, with opinions for and against legalisation on both sides of the fence. Whatever you perceive my point of view to be, please remember, they're just mine. Please join me for this 5-part blog series across Vietnam as we look to uncover some of the truths and culture surrounding the history of traditional Vietnamese medicine and the future of rhino horn use in the Far East.